Yeah, it's a great point because, as you say, it's people you can be attacked unless you have a nuclear weapon. And I don't think anyone would ever hopefully attack another country with a nuclear weapon. So that's, you hope not, but it seems like that's what a lot of these dictators and people are going to be trying to aim for, to protect their own rule of power.
Yeah, and then where do we go from here? Remains to be seen, of course. This, of course, is why the long-range missile attacks into old Russia or deep inside Russia were so dangerous at the end of the Biden administration, because Russia is not just a nuclear power, but it's the world's largest and arguably most sophisticated nuclear power, which makes the whole NATO, Ukraine, Russia war all the more dangerous. And so if we're going to normalize attacking nuclear sites in the same way that the world has normalized attacking the wanton destruction, really, of mostly civilian energy infrastructure, we're just crossing many, many red lines, unthinkable red lines just a decade ago. And our view and our wish is that Western leaders would give a bit more thought to the second and third order consequences of their actions.
Yeah, that seems to be the challenge. It seems to go back, if you go 30 years to Serbia and sort of the NATO intervention there, which, you could say it's the right thing, but then if it's going against the UN, it's sort of, if the West and the US do it for the right reasons, and other people will use that excuse for the wrong reasons, same as sort of the Middle East conflict in the early 2000s. Yeah.
The United Nations Security Council is utterly irrelevant today. It's a talking body. There were internationally applicable ways to go about preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. One can argue that those ways weren't working, but there's even a mechanism to address that. And by circumventing international law, and I don't think it's questionable, whether or not it's justified, again, we're not making a judgment on the decision. We're certainly not in possession of all of the intelligence that, say, the Israelis were before they decided to go. But nonetheless, it's just undeniable that nobody's going to pay attention to the UN Security Council anymore, and arguably that's probably, in aggregate, a bad thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you mentioned that, I think in another interview with David Lim, potentially, that you could see it's sort of these conflicts are basically, I don't know if they're leading to World War III or they're sort of a part of this larger global outburst of violence. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have sort of begun to call the Israel-Iran war the second phase of World War III. If you read the propaganda of China and Russia and other BRICS countries and the global South, I mean, they all describe the war in Ukraine as the opening front of World War III. And if you listen carefully to the sort of the neocon wing in Washington, this is all just stepping stones towards the ultimate prize, which is, in their mind at least, which is China, which seems insane to say. But to the Russians and to the Chinese and to the global South, there is a worldwide war. On one side of that war is the sort of Western alliance, the anchor members of the US dollar financial system, and then there's the BRICS countries basically on the other side. And you could almost view this as a global war for US dollar supremacy. And I think in 20, 30 years, that's how historians will describe the period from 2022 until whenever the hostilities subside, should they ever.